In this tutorial, we will be seeing how to display data in the ALV table. To display data in Webdynpro ABAP, SAP has provided us a generic component or a standard component by the name ALV_WD_table. In the following tutorial, we will see how to configure ALV table in Webdynpro and how do we display data in the Webdynpro. So I'll create a component. We have a component called YG notifications. In this particular component, we'll try to display data in the ALV table. So first step what we have to do is we have to define the component under the used component. As we are aware, whenever we are trying to use the other component within the current component, the first step should be is that you have to define the component name under the used component tab. This is our first step. Once we define the component under the used component tab, under the component details, we find ALV usage name here. And for the ALV, under the component usage name of ALV, we will find the interface controller. Double check on the interface controller usage. Now here we are within the context of ALV. Here the data node defines the structure of ALV along with it passes data to the ALV table. Now to this particular data node, what we have to do is we have to define external context mapping between the component, the node of the component controller with the node of ALV table. To define external, we call this as external context mapping because the mapping which is happening between the component controller of the node of the component controller of YG notification component with the node of ALV table. Now, to define the mapping, drag and drop the node notification onto the node of data. Now we find a message called external mapping for the context element which is defined. Now, let us save this. This should be your step number 2. Step number 3, we are trying to display data within the view. Now, first what we have to do is, we have to define the mapping between the node of the component controller with the node of the notification of your view controller. Because we are trying to display as the data communication is happening between different controllers. So to define the mapping with the view controller and the component controller, either you can right click on the node and click on define mapping, or you can drag and drop the node onto the notification node of your view controller. And then step 3. Here, currently we are displaying data in the normal table. Instead of displaying data in the normal table, I want to display data in the ALV table. So, to display data in the ALV table, it means that we are trying to display data in the view of the other component. So, the other component view, if we want to display within the current view, just like in module pool, we try displaying subscreens within the normal screen. So for that, what we do, we generally use subscreen area in order to display subscreens within the normal screen. Same way in ABAP, in Webdynpro, we had an UI element called view container UI element. Okay? We take the UI element called view container UI element. Now, within this view container, which view has to be displayed? Where do we define the particular view to be displayed within the view container? Here, this view is assigned to a window. And under the window, we find view, and view has a view container. So here is the place where we have to assign view to the view container. To assign view to the view container, right click on the UI element, click on embed view, select view to be embedded, and here you can see ALV table, the component using, and this is the name of the component, and these are the different interface views. Interface views in the sense window names. Here we select table view or interface view of the ALV component and click on continue. Click on save. Now let me activate the component. And now let's test the application. So here we see there's no any data. Let's have a check what is the problem. Yeah. The problem is that here we are trying to display data of the material and I did the wrong mapping with the notification. Now let's correct the mapping first. To correct the mapping, the material node which is within the view controller has to be available within the component controller. Now the other way of, I'll show you the other way how to copy the nodes of different controllers of any component. So we have the second option of using the wizard. Select the option of node to be copied from the different context. Define the component name from which component you are going to copy the node and select the controller of that particular component. And we add the node within the main view. Just entering the name of the component and the controller name. Select the node material. Now you can see the node which has got copied here. A small kind of correction with all kind of mappings what we have defined. The data node is defined mapping with notification node. So first let's delete the mapping which is already defined and I'm redefining mapping with the material node. And now in the main view we have to define the mapping between the material node and the component controller node, because here we just copied the node which was already available in the view controller. Now I'm establishing the mapping between two different controllers, and now as there is an arrow mark, it says that the mapping has been defined. And now let me activate the component. And then let's refresh the session. And now we can see here the data which is displayed in the ALV table. The difference between the normal table and the ALV table is the ALV table has by default which gives functionalities like where data can be exported, and we have several functionalities like filter, sorting, etc. And the columns which is to be displayed. You can just fit here. So for example, I do not want to see this particular screen. I do not want these columns to be seen here. So I just remove it. And I need to save this under my own name. So I am just personalizing for my particular username, for example. I say my user. And do you want to select this essential view or what? Say OK. And then when you say apply, you can see the view which is displayed. And when you take the standard view, it has all the columns. When it goes to my user view, you can see only the columns that are selected by you. This is how we create ALV table in the Webdynpro and how do we display data in the ALV. In the next set of tutorial, I'll show you how to add URL elements and other set of functionalities of ALV table. Thank you.